It is getting chilly around here. Definitely not below freezing yet, but almost single digits. Today's gym session is going to be push day. So same as it was last week pretty much. Flat bench, probably incline press machine, chest curls, flies, and then some triceps. I'm going to try and sneak some shoulder presses in there as well. I feel like that's kind of one group I've been missing in a few different exercises or a few different workouts. So shoulders in there, maybe some lateral raises. I don't know. We'll see. First thing to get out of the way though is going to be the cardio. And today is going to be a chores day. I got to get some stuff done around the house, so not sure if anything would be really exciting to record wise that people would want to watch. But if there's anything I find that might be interesting, I might record it. There was something I wanted to talk about today. I can't think what it is though. One thing I do have to do at some point is do kind of like a body composition check-in or something like that. Been wanting to take a picture, not really so much for videos, but just for myself at least, just so I can track progress. It's one thing I've never really done in the past, and I think it's kind of where I miss opportunities to see some progress and stuff. So I think maybe when I get home that's something else I'll do as well. Get that out of the way. In a couple of weeks too, I got a camping trip planned, so that might be something we can record. We're going to Algonquin Park, which is kind of like the bigger park in the province. Pretty popular, especially, well, not so much right now because the leaves aren't really changing colors yet, but in about a month's time it'll be pretty busy in that area. So going down there for a weekend, and I think that's pretty much going to be the end of our camping for the year. So I'm going to get in here and do this workout. Like I mentioned, push day, a little cardio, and see what else I have to talk about afterwards. I don't really have much to say right now. It's kind of early. My brain's not running yet, so I'll see you in a bit. So I think I kind of figured out what I was going to talk about today, or what I want to talk about today anyways, since I hadn't really planned something initially. And I think... right, to listen to a shaker bottle probably roll around. I don't know if the mic will pick it up. A good topic for a lot of the things that I'm going through right now. Not going through, but, recording myself, applications for med school, even work. Not so much work anymore because I've been doing it for a while. But just life in general is the concept or the idea of being uncomfortable or being okay with being uncomfortable in certain situations. I think, for most of us in any situation, you're going to put yourself out there, whether it be on social media, applying for a job, applying for a school program. It's kind of it's difficult to kind of make that leap, right? Like, you want to feel like you're going to know how everything is going to go, but there's inevitably a certain amount of unknowns or unpredictability to, any situation like that. Maybe there's some very small situations where it's like an 100% thing and you don't have to worry about it, but I think when you're doing a lot of things in life, the expectation is that you don't really know how it's going to end up in the end, or what the results will be, or if you'll get results even, whether it be weight training, fitness program, weight loss, applying to a school program, applying to a job, or even if you're in a job, trying a new skill, or maybe doing the application of something that you haven't done a whole lot and you're not extremely comfortable with. I think, expecting to be uncomfortable with those situations is a huge hurdle, and probably like one of those coming of ages things where you know like that's how it's going to be and that's what I need to expect. So you set your expectations up for that, or you set if you set yourself up to, I don't want to say expect the worst, but like when I do anything in life, especially at work, even when I'm working, training new paramedics, I always say plan for the worst, but hope for the best, but expect the worst. I don't want to say plan for the worst. It doesn't sound good either. But I feel like many things that we go into, like the list I just mentioned, we go into them with good intentions, but if you also go into them expecting them to always turn out, it'll sour your will or your willingness to go out there and try new things in the future. So that's kind of how I've tried weight training, weight loss programs for, like I said in one of my earlier videos, over a decade, and I've never really achieved, the body that I want. I've made, small incremental improvements that I'm happy with, but, I think for me, the ability to say, I didn't
really achieved the goal I wanted, but I'm happy with my improvements, or I've at least made some improvements, or I'm approaching my goal. There's some value in that. Same thing with my previous med school applications, not always successful, but I've had the opportunity to do interviews. I have people who are willing to be references for me. So these are all positive things that I continue to use in my future applications. Anyways, it's school pickup and drop off time, so we're going to take care of that, and then I'll check in with you guys in a bit. So, in proper new recording fashion, or new to vlogging fashion, I guess you could say, I just recorded probably a 10-minute rant without turning my camera on. And I even have it set up for like the super obvious red ring around my screen so that I know if it's recording or not, but apparently not enough. So I'll finish my rant again, I guess. What I was going on, or what I was talking about, is I was trying to finish up my discussion, or provide a little bit more clarification for what I was talking about on my kind of like post-gym discussion. And it was about, that kind of inability to make a decision, or that feeling of an inadequacy because like you're new to a job, or maybe, new to a skill, or I don't know, like I can't really speak for every profession out there. But in healthcare, I know a lot of it stems around, being new to a role, or being new to, out of school to a job. A lot of times you can feel that, you're not experienced, or you don't have enough seniority to make decisions on certain things, or that your opinion on patient care and stuff like that might not be relevant. And a lot of that, I think, stems down to, some cultural history, I guess you could say, to a lot of those jobs. Like the work culture in those places is, the senior people know most about these things, or they've seen and done it all, so they know the answers. But a lot of times in the way, any kind of STEM, so any kind of like science or technology, medical related professions nowadays, is everything's advancing so quick that you might have a lot of situations where people are out of school having learned a lot more than people that were, in the profession or training to be in the profession 10 years ago were. And that's really evident in paramedicine, because even when I started, 11 years ago, there's a lot of things that we wouldn't even have been thinking of doing. And if you go 10 years before that, when a lot of the people that, trained me, or I worked with, who had been well into their career, things like reading a 12 leader, an ECG, or defibrillating patients was, pretty much the only thing they could do. And, medications came way, way after. So I think there's a certain amount of validity to seniority and stuff like that, or, expecting that somebody's been around to know things. But there's also a lot of opportunities for people that are new to also, have a valuable input. Where are you going? You can go if you want. And I think a lot of that will change in time. When I coach students or teach at the college now, I don't want to say they're more confident, but I think there's a culture, or people that teach want their trainees and the paramedics coming out of the programs to be strong, be able to think independently, be confident in their decisions, because that indecision paralysis, or that feeling that you don't know what you're doing so you don't make any decisions, is really one of the most debilitating things, especially when you're dealing with a high stress situation, when you look at like emergency medicine or any healthcare field really. And I'm sure this extends into, a lot of other high stress, like critical thinking acuity situations. But I can only really speak specifically to healthcare. So I think, training people, or not, I don't want to say training, but giving them the tools to recognize that, their accomplishments or what they've done or the knowledge they have can be valued, and it is valuable to weighing in on certain situations, can really, help prevent those, those freeze ups, or having those colleagues that, feel like they're not allowed to say anything or make decisions. This kind of like goes way back into like what I was initially kind of talking about, is, how I feel with my application and, going to school, and, the difficulty I had with kind of being proud or confident in not in my abilities, but, what I've done, my experience as a paramedic, how it kind of attributes to my application to med school. And it really took a lot of work, especially with, I worked a lot with one of my buddies who applied a couple years and got in. But it took a lot of work for me to kind of reframe my thought processes on how